Ready to compete or still stuck in mediocrity? Let's get the Hawks soaring on this edition of The Nest. Hello everybody, welcome back to The Nest RXP. My name is Robin, welcoming you back as we continue to rebuild NBA teams in their offseason. And today we're tackling the Atlanta Hawks, a team that, as a Pelicans fan, I have some love-hate feelings towards. But they still have a ton of players that I do enjoy watching, and I do think that they have a ton of talent. They have a really good future ahead of them, but I do have a couple questions that I want to bring up with this team. But before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure to go check out the TikTok and Instagram and all of that jazz. You've heard me say before. If you haven't, go check out some of my other videos because I say it a lot. Now, like I said, I think the Hawks have a ton of questions, and I think the big question that I'm going to pose now that I'm actually going to address is Dyson Daniels, because don't get me wrong, I was a Dice fan when he was in New Orleans. When he moved off, he said some things. I'm not really a fan anymore, just being honest. But I do think that he's going to pose a very big issue if he can't develop at least a 33% jump shot. If he's going to continue to be a brick machine, for lack of a better word, with his jump shot, he's going to pose a very big issue with this Hawks team because you need as much spacing as you can get around Jalen Johnson. And you have a ton of guys that fit that profile really well. You got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's a pretty good shooter. You're going to have some guys that I'll trade for, and I'll explain in a second. But you also have Onyeka Okongwu at that center position, who's a pretty good shooter. Obviously, C.J. McCollum, good shooter. You have a ton of guys that are good shooters. But then you have Dyson Daniels, who's not only not a shooter, he's a negative floor spacer, if that makes sense. Now, while I didn't trade him this offseason, I couldn't trade him this offseason because of his contract and restrictions. But I do think that it's something that you should look into for the future and possibly think to move him maybe at the trade deadline or maybe next offseason and try and get a point guard who better fits this team. But the first thing I actually did was make a trade for Jalen Johnson's true second star. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think he's a perfect third option for this team. But I think that if you need a true second option, and I think this trade is the one that can be perfect suited for this Hawks team. And the trade is with the Brooklyn Nets, and it simply looks something like this. The Nets will acquire Corey Kispert, Zachary Risacher, Buddy Hield, Asa Newell, the 23rd pick in this year's draft, and a pick 57, the Hawks' second-round pick this year. And the Hawks will acquire Michael Porter Jr. Like I said, I think this is perfect for this team. You get a small forward who fits extremely well with Jalen Johnson. He also provides the length and versatility. He's kind of like I don't want to say he's like an upgraded Zachary Risacher, but he kind of is for what we thought Zachary Risacher was going to bring. He's not the same defensive prospect that Zachary Risacher was, but he's still a pretty good defender as well. And I think this is the perfect guy to pair alongside Jalen Johnson for cheap as well. It also helps that MPJ's contract is expiring next season, so you could re-sign him for cheap, or you can just sign and trade him later on in order to better fit your team if you wanted to fully go with Nickeil Alexander-Walker as your second option. There was another option I saw that you could do. I didn't end up going with it, but if you wanted to trade for Tyler Hero instead of Michael Porter Jr., it would be a similar trade, just like Corey Kispert, Zachary Risacher, Buddy Hield, a first-round pick and a second-round pick. It's basically the same thing, minus Asa Newell, and you get Tyler Hero. I don't hate this either. I went with Michael Porter Jr. because he's more of a small forward. He better fits this pretty guard-heavy team already, and so I like having Michael Porter Jr. because he's also a little healthier with this team. So that's reasoning. But if you wanted to go with this instead, you absolutely could. Okay, next up, the NBA draft. There are two guys that I would definitely take with that 8th overall pick. It's just a matter of which one's available or which one has a better, not draft combine, who talked with you better and interviews with you better and all that jazz. And those two guys are Keaton Wagler and Mikal Brown Jr., two guys that you've heard me mention before. I'm huge on both these prospects. I think they can be perfect for this team. They're probably not going to start, but if you trade Dyson Daniels later on, they could be good starting caliber point guards of the future after given some reps. But knowing this team or knowing point guards, they're not going to be extremely good their rookie years, so this also gives them an opportunity to develop off the bench alongside guys like C.J. McCollum and Dyson Daniels to become the best version of these players. And now for the rest of the little things, I would accept Kuminga's team option just so that he doesn't walk in free agency, and you can always extend him this offseason, or if you don't want to accept the team option, just refuse it and then extend him But regardless, keep Kuminga. I like him off the bench with this team. I would re-sign CJ McCollum. I have it as a 3-year, $40 million deal. Something nice, something easy, not terribly expensive. And then I would also re-sign Jacques Landale to be that backup center for you. I have it as a 3-year, $25 million deal. I don't think it's going to be terribly expensive. And he would just be a perfect backup center for this team. And he will be a good starting caliber center for when Onyeka Okongwu gets injured or things like that. And then if that's the case, then you have some other guys that can play that center position as well. But other than that, that's about it for the Atlanta Hawks. Like I said, they have a pretty good team, just some fine-tuning, using some of their assets like Zachary Riche to get a guy like MPJ, I think will be huge for this team. And now the team looks something like this. I have Dyson Daniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker running the guard positions. Whichever one is point guard, you can choose. I don't really care. I have Dyson at point, Nah at second, MPJ at the small forward position, Jalen Johnson at the power forward position, and Onyeka Okongwu at the center position. And then off the bench, you have Keaton Wagler, CJ McCollum, Jonathan Kuminga, Muhammad Gay, and Jacques Landale. And they have some other guys as well that I did not mention that could get some minutes, but I think of the core, those are the 10 guys I'll probably get minutes. If not the 9 guys, I don't know if Muhammad Gay is going to get a ton of minutes. But regardless, that's what the team will look like. Like I said, if they're still young, so they still have some development that they can do. But I think with this team, with some good coaching, which Quinn Snyder's a pretty good coach, don't get me wrong, with some good coaching and a little more development, I think they can start to compete fully, and they can get back into that 4th or 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. And once Jalen Johnson develops a little bit more and he's fully fleshed out as that star, not that he's not already started, but like once he's fleshed out a little more, not as just a slasher, and he's like developed his all-around offensive game just a little bit more, or develop his consistency a little bit more, I think it would be huge. And I know there's a big question of like why CJ McCollum's coming off the bench. You can start CJ. I like Dyson Daniels better because I think he's it's weird because he's not really a true point guard either. He's more of a wing in my eyes. But I think Dyson Daniels, the defense that Dyson Daniels provides, I think would be better, especially with CJ coming off the bench, to be that offensive punch, because you can cycle out, okay, Nickeil comes off, CJ comes on. CJ comes off, Nickeil comes on. If you just want pure offense, you can have CJ and Nah and MPJ and Jalen Johnson out there on the court at the same time. Whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's about it, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think the Hawks should go down this route? Do you think that they should keep their young talent and see if Zachary Riche could develop more? What do you think they should do? And what do you think they should do with Dyson Daniels in the coming future? Let me know, because I'm very curious to hear what y'all have to say. But until then, y'all, peace.